Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Ballanyne, better known as the Paleo Mom, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make a paleo flour tortilla. Flour tortillas were one of the staples of my childhood. I remember my mom making these huge batches of burrito beans, and we would make flour tortillas from scratch. And it was one of my jobs as a child to help my mom make the tortilla dough and help roll out the tortillas so that she could fry them. So of course, any recipe in which the prime ingredient is wheat flour becomes a really challenging ingredient to create a paleo adaptation of. Well, that was until the introduction of cassava flour into the paleosphere. So why am I using cassava flour? So cassava flour comes from the cassava root, which goes by many different names depending on where in the world it's grown. Cassava, manioc, yucca, yucca, tapioca. So what's different between cassava flour and tapioca flour? Tapioca flour is the extracted starch. So it goes also by the name tapioca starch. Tapioca starch and tapioca flour are the same thing. It's the extracted starch from the cassava root or tapioca root. Whereas cassava flour is the whole root, which is dehydrated and ground. So with cassava flour, you're getting fiber, vitamins, minerals, a little bit of protein, all the same starch as with tapioca starch, but the chemistry in baking is completely different. And cassava flour allows us to do some things that tapioca starch just doesn't, which is why we can actually make now a paleo version of flour tortillas. So thanks to the chemistry of cassava flour. So I'm just gonna measure out the cassava flour first. I'm adding salt, cream of tartar, and baking soda. I'm just going to mix those together first. Make sure it's well combined. And then I'm adding my wet ingredients, water and olive oil. And then just gonna mix it together with my fingers. Cassava flour has a pretty good absorptive capacity, so it'll start looking like a really sticky dough, and then as you work with it together, it will get drier and drier. It's actually one of the biggest challenges of working with this flour is adjusting the wet to dry ingredients ratios. So see how dry that got? It went from sticky and soupy to a cohesive dough really quickly. And then once I've got a nice dough, I'm just going to divide it into 8 balls to make 8 flour tortillas. Now I'm gonna roll them out. So I'm rolling them out, you can either roll them out between 2 sheets of parchment paper, 2 sheets of wax paper, 2 silicone mats. I'm actually using a silicone mat on the bottom and wax paper on the top. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I like the reusable nature of the silicone mat, but the wax paper, A, it lets you see what I'm doing, and B, it's actually gonna allow me to roll these all out and stack them as I prepare to then fry them for eating. So all I do for each dough ball is I roll it into a ball and I kind of flatten it out with my fingers. This is a nice dough to work with. It's holds together very well and it's not super sticky. Once I have kind of a flat circle, I don't worry about it being perfect because it's homemade flour tortillas. They're not supposed to be perfect. I'm gonna place a sheet of wax paper over the top. You could use parchment paper here instead. And I'm just going to roll it out to a nice thin circle. I like really thin flour tortillas. I'm aiming for this to be about 1 millimeter thick. And it's gonna make sort of an 8 to 10 inch size flour tortilla, which is a really nice size to work with. So once it's thin, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to peel off actually the silicone mat. So to do that, I'm gonna flip the whole thing over. I'm gonna roll the silicone mat. I'm gonna get the edge started because I want it to stay attached to the wax paper.
And once the edge is nicely started, the whole thing just peels right off. And then I can add this to my pile to cook. So I'm cooking this in a Le Creuset cast iron frying pan. So that's an enamel lined frying pan, but a well-seasoned cast iron frying pan would work just as well. And this frying pan has been preheated over medium heat, which means it's a pretty hot pan. And all I'm going to do is peel the wax paper off the tortillas. You can see it holds together really well, and flop it in the pan. I'm gonna let it cook for about a minute on the first side until I'm starting to see bubbling forming on the surface, and then 30 seconds to 45 seconds on the second side.
And that's it. That's all there is to it. You have an amazingly flexible, delicious flour tortilla.